Welcome back, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. So now let's talk silver. We have a lot to cover in this video, folks. First things first, I am doing a giveaway in the next 2-3 days. I need to know what you want the prizes to be. I'm either giving away a 1-ounce gold coin and probably a couple loose coins, or a couple tubes of Eagles and some loose stuff. Let me know what you would rather see. In the comments, it's been about 50-50, so I'm still trying to get an idea. Maybe I'll do a poll. Regardless, though, you make sure you wanna subscribe, because this giveaway is going to be insane, and especially the 100,000 subscriber giveaway, once we actually hit that milestone, is going to be even crazier. So if you want a chance to get some silver shipped straight to your front doorstep and gold, make sure you subscribe. I post daily videos as well. So we have an interesting article that was actually posted today, fresh off the press today, talking about how silver takes the lead. We even have a report. We go over some of the highlights, which is talking about, one, we're in a bull market, but silver is gold on crack, which is pretty funny. I call it gold on steroids. We also have the silver deficit, which they're saying is solar panels, which we could also go into some other things. And then the macro is unaffordable houses, which I haven't really heard that much. Usually when I talk about the macro instead of the micro, I'm talking about the fundamentals of, the next decade as we advance in this new digital technological era. So we have some interesting stuff, especially, going into the unaffordable houses, how that could affect silver's price. They go into talking about silver's cheap gold. Silver leads the miners. Silver price shrugs off ETFs. Then they even go down here and talk about the supply deficit, which, by the way, was record-breaking last year. Record-breaking last year. We've never seen such a big supply deficit ever. Talking about hundreds of millions of ounces in the red, and I don't know how we'll be able to keep up with this increasing demand with this shrinking supply. So this is going to be a great video. I also did want to talk about, as you saw in the thumbnail, Donald Trump, and if he does win the 2024 election, how that could affect the price of precious metals, more specifically silver. So we got some good conversations in here. The link to this article will be in the description. With that said, let's talk silver. Silver takes the lead. So we have this Atlas Pulse report, issue 85. Most precious metals analysts would broadly expect gold and silver to end up in roughly the same place over the long term, but silver would get there with more sleepless nights. So why bother? The answer is that when silver is undervalued, as it currently is, there is opportunity for a catch-up rally. Not only that, but under the right conditions, it will overshoot. And yes, nothing makes as much sense as silver does, right? Nothing has as much potential, especially looking at something that's undervalued instead of something that's overvalued. Silver is extremely undervalued, right? Especially when you look at what it's used for. Someone actually commented on my last video saying silver would never break above $50, and I said, and they said that the government would never allow that, and I said, look, if silver had the use case such as gold, then yes, you could very well be right. But what we're talking about, every electric vehicle or every automobile company by the year 2030 will be electric. Think of just that alone, what the demand would be. And then when you go into solar panels, just that alone could push the price. But then when you look at the supply deficit, including 5G towers and all these other things, no government could hold back something that important, that critical, that vital. And once people realize how scarce silver is and how important it is, the role it plays moving forwards, once they realize that, silver is literally going to be what determines the outcome of this new green era, if it's achievable or not, I think the price could definitely, go above $50. But regardless, though, I don't want to get too much in that. That was in the last video. But let's go into this. Silver is gold on crack. I don't know who said it first, but I heard it from John Levin around the time of the credit crisis in 2008, which, by the way, I'll just highlight quickly what happened. 2008, we had the credit financial crisis, which led to like $1 billion stimulus. And, then we had a recession/depression. 3 years later led to $50 silver. That's the whole point, right? 2008 to 2011, was the last run of $50 silver. Previously, it was in 1980 with the Hunt brothers stint, where they basically just bought all the silver in the world. But his Gold on Crack comment humorously describes silver's excess volatility in comparison to gold's, which is generally twice as high. And that's what I talk about. Silver's gold on steroids. If gold's going to rise 10%, silver's going to rise 15, 20%, and vice versa. So there's more risk, but also more opportunity to lose. And that's if you're like a day trader, you're someone who has weak hands. So you got to be careful. You can lose a lot of money. A lot of stackers end up selling way too early, or just selling in general because they give up faith, and it ends up biting them in the butt, especially when silver recovers a couple months later and they're like, why did I sell? So despite great hope, silver's additional volatility has not led to higher returns, reminding us that more risk does not always result in more reward. And that's for the immediate term, though. When you're talking about someone who's not planning on selling for 15, 20 years, I can't imagine what silver's price would be. And I'm sure the dollar won't last that long, so someone who's transferring fake money into real money will still have something that is real money, that was our real money, much longer than this useless piece of paper will be in existence. So the gold to silver ratio measures the price difference between gold and silver. It's currently 79 to 1. I'm not going to go too much. You guys know what the gold to silver ratio is, right? Silver is cheap gold, but it's much more useful since gold is used for jewelry and necklaces, right? Stuff like that. So it doesn't have much use. Gold basically is just something that's shiny and people like. Yes, there is some gold in electronics, but nothing compared to silver, right? Nothing. So a strong price is one thing, but it isn't a bubble by any means, because investors have been dumping silver for the past 2 years. Indeed, their holdings are not much higher than they were in 2011 when the price last touched $50, like I was saying, considering that has been happening in financial markets over the past decade. See, with the surge in the money supply, the price of silver has been remarkably subdued. Many blame Bitcoin for taking the limelight that would otherwise have benefited silver, which could be a possibility. But I do think there is a market for both of those to coexist. I mean, they both are taking control of your wealth, taking the power out of the government's hands and putting them, you are in complete control when you own cryptocurrency and precious metals, right? And that's why they're both seen as the rebellious metals and hounded by a lot of, mainstream type media and even sources on the internet. You'll see a lot of people just flat out spread misinformation about silver or just twist their narrative, and I've ripped those articles to shreds. Those are some of my most favorite videos when I find someone doing that, and I'll rip all of their cases apart. So anyways, what's interesting about the chart above is how the silver ETFs accumulated 500 million ounces of silver pre-2011, which coincided with the near 10 times price surge. That leveled off until 2020, only to rise in the post-pandemic environment. So then they talk about Wall Street Silver, pushed silver up to $30, and then didn't do much. A lot of people say they failed. I don't consider that failing, as they have almost 200,000 members now, and a lot of people, I'm sure some of you, have been turned in and introduced into silver because of that, that time, that era, in early February 2021, was it? Yeah, about that time when they did that, right? It put a spotlight on silver, and anyone who's taking control of their wealth and getting into silver, I mean, regardless of what their motives were, at least a lot of people got introduced, and now they're stacking, which is a great thing regardless, right? That's the whole point of my channel. If I can convince even just one person on my videos to start stacking, I've done a great deed for that person. And that's what Andy Schectman always talks about, is how influential we can be, and sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that. Today there is no meme craze, and the ETFs are experiencing outflows. That makes the current price action in silver quite impressive. The price remains firm while there is external selling pressure from investors. So they go still into this 2010, 2011, it was extremely tight, marginal purchases, but that faded in 2012. But the bottom line is that it would be a good time for investors to catch the silver bug because they are likely to get rewarded. So it seems like they are very bullish. For this opportunity to be realized, we would need a period of uncertainty and inflation, which sounded like the world around us, right? It sounds like the world around us. With tech tired from its 2023 rebound, silver could just be the ticket. And then when you talk about tech and solar panels and all these reasons why silver could potentially, which not even potentially, I don't want to, I can't, I don't have a crystal ball, but looking at the data, it only makes sense that moving into this new digital technological era, needing, if we already exceeded 1.12 billion ounces or 1.21 billion ounces last year, demand wise, and supply is only around 850 million ounces, and that's on a good year. What's going to happen by the year 2030 when every automobile company is electric? What would the demand be? 2 billion ounces? And what kind of supply deficit would that look like then? Right? So if you step back and look at not silver exploding in a couple of months, but looking at it from a longer term, we're long haulers. This is not a get rich quick scheme. Then you could see the opportunity and potential. So over the past decade, mine production has fallen. And there you go, right? Mine production has fallen, with the real story being higher demand. Most of that comes from electronics and photovoltaics now dominating the sector, which is PV cells, which are in solar panels. The bottom line is that if you think there will be more solar panels over the next decade, then the silver market will remain tight, and that's opportunity. If investors were to reverse their silver sales, it wouldn't be difficult to see silver challenge $50 for the third time. And if I guarantee if it breaks above $50, we would see triple digits because of the resistance at $50 in 1980 and $50 in 2011. A lot of resistance there. And if it broke above that, we'd probably see $100 very fast, and then it would go into overbought territory, and then it would probably correct, right? Correct back down to probably like $60 or $70 for a while. But regardless, that day is coming. At $24, silver is cheap gold. And all we need to see for this precious metal to rally is a little calming in this absurd monetary tightening. The negative impact on gold and silver price has been light. It has been the light for reasons I've laid out in the recent issues of Atlas Pulse. In the main, gold has become the global neutral asset, not that U.S. treasuries have become weaponized. So then they go into unaffordable housing. So in the eyes of many, carnage in the bond market is seen to be a reason to buy real assets such as gold and silver. That does make sense, rather than take the signal that monetary conditions will remain tight for years to come. The cynics believe that rate hikes are unsustainable, and when the economy feels the pain, money printers will be spurred back into action, and that is unsurprising in a market that has witnessed 25 years of money printing to solve all problems. That's a good point. And they even show some proof. Here's an example of the carnage around us. The red line shows the interest rate on a new U.S. 30-year mortgage, which has surged over the past 2 years, yet house prices have barely fallen, which is the black. And that makes the green line on the lower chart frightening. That multiplies the rate against the average house price, a measure of how much a house costs a normal person. So look at this. And look what's happened since 2020. Look it's shot up, right? That is something to take note of. And in 2007, just before the crisis, this touched 11.4, having risen from 6 in 1998. It eased back to 5 by 2012, and yet today it's 23.2. This is extraordinarily tight for the housing market, and it seems implausible that another collapse doesn't follow. This is one of the many examples that could go wrong, and this isn't China, it's the US, which seem to be the most stable market of them all. And speaking of China, which is the biggest consumer of silver, we also have a lot to look at, from that perspective as well, looking at China, looking at oil, looking at the dollar index, looking at so many other factors, the 2024 election, which we'll talk about in a second. So here's a summary of this article. In this piece, I've highlighted how silver is trading as cheap gold. The silver to gold ratio is below average, and that average has the potential to rise if inflation persists. The market is tight because less silver is mined while there is record demand for solar. If investors weren't selling, silver price would probably already be higher. And it's not even just talking about less silver is mined. Silver is a byproduct. It's found by accident. Most miners are looking for gold or lead or zinc, right? And if they find silver, they'll take it, but there's very few focal silver mines. Silver's a byproduct. Most silver is thrown away, never to be recycled like gold is. So we're talking about a situation that, if you add up 1 plus 1, it equals 2, and a lot of people don't understand that, right? The risk is a long run in substitution, or this is substitution. In commodities, this is always a threat, as high silver prices will cause the scientists to find cheaper substitutions, but that takes time, right? Silver is the most highly conductive metal for thermal conductivity, electricity, and light sensitivity. It cannot be replaced. It comes here from meteors and comets. We're talking about the universe. We're talking about no other elements that's been able to replicate silver, not even close. Copper can, but it's not even a close second, which is, it is number 2, but the quality, it's not even worth it. It would be more affordable to go the silver route. But scientists are looking into it, finally taking note of it in the last year or so, which is interesting itself, that they're recognizing silver as a threat. But not only that, if solar prices double, sales will fall. It is simple as that. But silver isn't just a solar panel. Also, I don't know why they don't mention EVs. It's a precious metal that is historically undervalued at a time when gold has been established in an important new role. That puts silver in a sweet spot. It's a good point. I mean, I like this article, especially, the housing part of this thing, and they did cover, the main points. I think, looking at this, I think that this is a great, this is a lot of, these are a lot of great points, right? And there's more points. I post daily videos showing article after article, case after case, showing why silver has so much potential. But leading into, the 2024 election is interesting. There's a lot of things coming up. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't think about when you'll see these forecasts, these predictions come out. People don't incorporate the unknown variable. Right? We don't know what we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We're not fortune tellers. We don't know. Something could and will pop up that could throw prices way out of left field, right? Nobody could have predicted COVID. Nobody could have predicted Russia invading Ukraine. I mean, there's so many different things that affect the price, and you have to remember, yes, in a perfect world, as things are, you can put together a great forecast if things stay the same, but they're not going to be the same, especially in these crazy times we live in. If you talk about crazy prices, we'll expect crazy times, and we're living in those crazy times, so expect crazy prices. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And it all is looking like it's extremely bullish for silver, right? I could even say much more than gold. So, if you guys don't know, I was a special guest on the Rich Dad podcast with Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And I was thinking about this earlier today, and this is something I wanted to mention. Robert Kiyosaki is very good friends with Donald Trump. They've been long-term business partners. They've written 3 books together. And as I was on Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad podcast, Robert talks about stacking silver for several decades. He used to fly, decades ago and buy. He talked about buying silver from, places in remote areas and all this stuff, and trying to speak the language and all. So the whole point is he's been invested into silver for a long time while he's been friends with Donald Trump, and I'm sure they've had that conversation. So there's no way that someone as powerful as Trump or even Elon Musk isn't aware of silver's potential. For monetary gains, someone like Trump, it wouldn't matter. But for someone like Elon Musk, it would matter. Not monetarily, but for their business. SpaceX, silver is used in space equipment. Tesla, silver is used in electric vehicles, even Solar City with the solar panels he has. Silver is used in solar panels, photovoltaic cells. So, people like Elon Musk and Trump, they are aware of silver, especially Elon. He has to be buying boatloads of it. Mike Maloney sent Elon, and David Morgan sent Elon a personal letter. And I actually interviewed David Morgan on my channel before and asked him personally about his letter to Elon Musk and talked about it, right? Mike Maloney even did the math. He said, Elon, if you are going to be producing X amount of Teslas by the year 2030 and, you're talking about, X, Y, and Z, if you are buying silver at $25, it would only cost you $700 and something million. And that's actually what he said, 700. He said, but if you wait till silver is $100, it's going to cost you $3 billion. Right? And that's just his automobile company. So, not saying that's not affordable, but the whole point is these top people all know about silver. Jim Rogers, right? All the most rich billionaires are all stacking silver, and it's not ironic, right? It's not ironic. So, anyways, I would like to hear your thoughts on that as well. I think it is interesting. I think that, silver stackers will get the last laugh. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe. I'm doing lots of giveaways coming up. If you wanted to purchase some silver, I recommend buying from Miles Franklin. Send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know Silver Slayer sent you. They will hook you up. They will match any big retailer. They'll match anyone's price if you can prove it. I'm not talking about these small little sites or an eBay seller. I'm talking about major retailers. They will match it. If they don't already have lower prices, they're still one of the only few authorized dealers with the U.S. Mint. That speaks for itself. They're highly respected, highly trusted. If they mess up, which every company does, they will fix it, and you could even email me personally. I could even hook you up directly with the CEO, which is Andy Scheckman. I mean, it's like buying silver from your friend instead of just some person behind a screen where you don't even know their name, right? So it could be a lot of there's a lot of potential there, especially moving forwards, as me and Andy keep doing our podcast, and as we build a relationship, and as the company grows, and as the channel grows, and as our stacking, our careers grow as well. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate and love every single one of you. This was Silver Slayer. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.